From the high desert southwest and an indiscreet shave den located in the deep recesses of Ouch's basement, broadcasting north from McMurdo Sound to Ice Station Zebra and east and west across all time zones to our members throughout the world, this is Badger and Blade Radio. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be on this piece of galactic real estate that we call home, and welcome to Badger and Blade Radio. It is March 2017. Can you believe it? The year is already starting to fly by, and on this episode, we have news and events around BadgerandBlade.com. The mail call section will be taking a bit of a hiatus for this show, as we do have an extended Moderator Spotlight interview, but we will have the poll results from our video library poll. All this and a whole bunch more. Sit back, relax, and we'll be right back.
Here is one of the bare essentials for staying sexy. Jovan Musk. I'll just let you guess what the others are.
Jovan Musk. We help American men stay sexy.
Welcome back to the broadcast, everybody, and just a quick reminder that B&B Radio can be viewed and or listened to every 2 weeks here on www.badgerandblade.com. A couple of different ways to view and or listen to it is right here in the video library forum, as well as our YouTube page. Just search YouTube for Badger and Blade, and as always, we appreciate any comments and likes on that page as well. And for those of you that enjoy podcasts, just search out the thread here in the video library forum for the instructions on how to get to our podcast feed, and these feeds will work on most electronic devices and phones. And now for some news and events around BadgerandBlade.com. Your Stewart's Keen Dog and Imitator over in the Safety Razor Forum would like to let you know that March is Fat Tip Month. So if you have a fat tip or you'd like to find out more about it, just keep an eye out for that thread. And from Bruce, your Aftershave Forum steward, the official Aftershave Bingo will be beginning sometime this month, so please keep an eye out for it and get signed up. SS Kim, one of our members here on Badger and Blade, was lucky enough to win a very beautiful Chubby 3 style hand-turned brush handle from one of our other members, Smattayu. It is a beautiful, beautiful brush, as you can see by the pictures here. And instead of just piffing it out, the folks wanted to do something special. We're going to give you a little bit of a preview of the Sue Moore Memorial Auction with a quick lightning round auction, with all benefits going to the National Breast Cancer Foundation. As you can see by some of the pictures, it will come without a knot, therefore you can put whatever you want on it. That auction will be beginning in the General Shave discussion area on the 7th of March and will run through 7 p.m. on the 10th of March. So please get involved, and it'll give you a nice little preview of what the Sue Moore Memorial Auction will be like later on this year. We'd like to congratulate Aspen54 and Gnome0228. They are the latest winners in our official B&B Bingo game. Now, in the Soaps Forum, the March theme month is still going on, so there's still time to get in. Currently, the week is Artisan Week, or actually British Week now, that as of this broadcast, so you still have plenty of time to get involved. As always, if you are new, please head on over to the Shave Clinic and Newbie Check-In, as well as the Hall of Fame, to introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about you. Over in the mess hall, for those of you that are hungry, the theme for the group cookout will be Irish dishes. It starts on Saturday, the 11th of March, and will end on the 19th. So if you have a recipe or like to find out more about Irish dishes, please head on over to the mess hall. We'd also like to congratulate Ninja Shaver in winning the February photo contest in the darkroom. That theme was graffiti. The March theme will be public sculpture and will run from the 1st through the 19th, with voting between the 20th and 26th. Check out the darkroom forum to find out more and to enter and to see all the wonderful, wonderful photos that our members submit on a monthly basis. Also, don't forget to check out our vendor forums, as well as our buy-sell trade and the Panjo Marketplace. That's it for news and events here on Badger and Blade Radio, and we'll be right back.
This is High Karate's top secret lime orchard. where High Karate's cracked botanists have developed the only lime big enough and powerful enough to go into High Karate Oriental Lime after shave. High Karate Oriental Lime, with indispensable instructions on self-defense in every package. High Karate Oriental Lime. Be careful how you use it.
Welcome back to the broadcast, and you're listening to B&B Radio on www.badgerandblade.com. A quick announcement from the B&B team of admins, moderators, and stewards here at badgerandblade.com. We'd like to thank you, the members, for your continued support and patience as we continue to update and fine-tune the new XF software. The last big transfer was the reviews, and they are now up and running for your enjoyment and contribution. We also have some exciting new features and forums that you can all look forward to coming up in the near future. Once again, from the B&B team, thanks to you, all the members. We had also mentioned that we were not going to be having the mail call section this week. However, we did put up a poll in the video library just to see what everybody was shaving with. And the poll was, what type of shaving hardware do you use? And we'll just go right down the list. For DE razors, meaning you shave with a DE 100% of the time, 23.5% of you said that that is your main go-to. As far as straight razors, 100% of the time, that was 5.9%. SE razors by themselves was actually a big whopping goose egg at 0. Shavette razors was 5.9%. Cartridge razors 100% was also a big goose egg. DE and SE razors was 17.6%. And then the big one was DE, SE, and straight razors, which means you pretty much use what you want when you want to use it. That was 29.4%. DE, SE, straights, and carts came out at 11.8%. Electric was a big 0. And all of the above, whatever fits my mood, came in at 5.9%. So that gives you a little cross-section of what everybody is using here on badgerandblade.com. Now, you may have seen some videos on the various forum about a new look pith. Well, as we celebrate the new XF Forum software, we wanted to do something unique that had never been done before. And that's basically a pith that is going to run site-wide, and the amount of items that you're going to see, and for that winner, is astounding. So please take a look at this video. And as you know, it is Check 6, or Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month. We have a fantastic interview coming up with Mike, who has spearheaded this Check 6 event each and every March. So sit back, watch the video, and we'll be back with the interview right after this.
Yeah, I got tested. It's no big deal.
Come on, Bob. How's a test going to prevent colon cancer?
I'll show you.
This is Robert. He knows you can actually prevent colon cancer by getting tested.
They take a look at your colon, and if they find a polyp, they get it out before it turns into cancer.
No, you didn't.
Oh, yes, I did.
If you're 50 or older, talk to your doctor about getting tested for colon cancer. Or for free information, contact us today. This is the American Cancer Society.
Welcome back to B&B Radio, everybody, and we're very excited to have our guest interview with MDevine, Mike, one of our moderators here on badgerandblade.com. And you've probably been noticing a lot of avatars changing to blue, or maybe even a check 6 in their signature line. What that basically means is March is Colorectal Cancer Awareness, and Mike has been spearheading this for a number of years, and so we'd really like to welcome Mike to the show. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing great today, Dave. How are you?
Fantastic. We certainly appreciate you taking time to spend with the members of Badger and Blade. And how long have you been a member of B&B? And can you take us through the timeline from you becoming a member to becoming a steward to becoming a moderator?
Sure. I joined back in March of 2010 after being a lurker for at least a year. And after 3 or 4 years there, got an email and asked if I'd be interested in becoming a steward. Not really understanding what that was, I decided that sounded great, and they put me in the Shave of the Day forum. If any of you have seen any of my photos, you'll realize that I'm not the most gifted photographer, but what I lack in ability, I tried to make up for in passion. And I did that for probably a year or so, and if I remember right, you took over that role when I left it.
Absolutely.
And I actually, one of my children moved to China, and I had gone over to Asia and spent some time with him, and just didn't have the time then to do what was required to be a steward, and just asked them if they minded if I stepped down for a while. And 6 months to a year later, I got another message asking if I'd be interested in taking the role on again, and I was more than happy to. And I then started over in the shaving brush forum and did that for a while, and then moved to the fragrance forum. And that was the one where I had the most passion for. That was my AD before I found Badger and Blade, and that was the one AD I had that disenabled the most. I had a lot of fragrances before I started, and now, it's like my wife said, I'm worse than any woman she knows when it comes to just how many fragrances I have laying around the house.
Well, that's actually a very good thing, Mike, because now with my wife not too far away from me right now, I can actually blame you, because I can, I want to thank you, because you were probably the first person that reached out to me when I joined as a member, and I kind of followed you around and asked you about fragrances, and that led me into becoming the steward of the Shave of the Day, and then following you to the fragrances. I am very much in the same boat that you are now, and there's just something about the fragrances that, make that rabbit hole a little bit deeper than some.
There's just so many options, and not that there aren't in other things, but with the razors, I could only use them so often, whereas with the fragrances, it's just, again, for me, there's just so many options, and I really do enjoy them and learning about them, and so that's always been fun, and it really was stoked quite a bit once joining here.
Sure.
After joining, back when I first joined, and within the first year or two, there were several members back then that would do splits of fragrances.
Mm-hmm.
And so I ended up getting probably 8 or 10 really good fragrances that I tried. I remember I got Creed Windsor back then, and ended up with Dior Leather Oud, and quite a few other ones that were just ones that I still enjoy to this day, and then several other members, and you know how generous people are here.
Sure.
I remember Michael, who I believe is Pujaji is his screen name, sent me over a handful of really high-end fragrances just for no good reason at all other than to do it. And then there was a guy who was a steward for a while, and his screen name was Lamroot. And I remember he was from Zagreb, Croatia.
Wow.
And he must have sent me 30 or 40 different 10-milliliter decants of high-end fragrances. I mean, it had to have cost him a couple $100 worth of fragrances. And I remember when I opened the package and showing my wife and saying, this is somebody that lives, half the world away, who's never met me, and because we've discussed things together, just, sent this to me out of the kindness of his heart.
Sure.
And again, there's nowhere else in the world that I've ever found where you just have people that are like the B&B people, and but that just stoked that along.
Exactly.
But,
well, we're going to let you expand on the fragrance things in just a bit, because I've got some other questions for you on that.
Well, I'll tell you a little bit about how after that, I was at the fragrances for a while, and I got a letter talking about whether or not I'd be interested in being a moderator, and explaining how it wasn't necessarily a promotion, and to think of it more as, I don't know, a demotion or lateral move. And there's a certain fruit to that once you see the difference in what you do. But probably within the last year, I moved over to the moderator end of things, and it's fascinating and interesting, and definitely very different than the steward role.
Sure.
And if you're interested, I could tell you the differences. But
sure.
For me, the steward role was, I was kind of the good cop or the good guy, and I enjoy that, being kind of the friend and a mentor, and with the moderator role, if there's one downside to it, and it's that you're more of the bad cop, and you're the one who kind of has to step in when things need taken care of.
Sure.
Which is a lot different role. Unfortunately, there doesn't happen. Most of the people play nice, but it's just a different role.
Well, I think that, and I've said this a billion times on the shows before, is the stewards are kind of the court jesters with, with the floppy hats with the bells on them. And we, go around and have fun and create content and try to keep people engaged. Another member had put it to me when we were talking off post one time, is that, Badger and Blade is like a casino. We pump oxygen into it. We don't show anybody where the exits are because we want them to stay as long as possible. But there has to be a pit boss. And the pit bosses, for lack of a better term, are the moderators because, and you and I have talked about this too. I was a moderator on a different forum. And, you talk about being bad cop, but the bad cop here is nothing compared to some of the other forums that people have to moderate. And with that being said, what do you like most about being a moderator?
You know what? The people. The people that you work with are great. And it's always interesting that, before we decide to do anything, and when we approach any issue, most of the time there's a conversation about, do we really even want to do this? Is this something that we have to do? It's never taken as, somebody wants to exercise their authority, or, that's not like Eric Cartman, or respect my authority. It's more, what do we have to do, and how can we do this in a way that will be the most diplomatic? And it's interesting to watch because it's very common for people to post what they sent to somebody. And it's amazing how diplomatic people are trying to be. I know with me, if I write to anybody, I go out of my way to try to be as nice as I possibly can. There's still some people that, no matter how nice you are to them, don't like any kind of, restrictions on their freedom to say what they want to say and do what they want to do. But the thing that makes Badger and Blade so special in a lot of ways is that it is policed to a certain extent, and that people are expected to behave appropriately, and we want people who come there to make sure that they feel that they're not going to be attacked, they're not going to be looked down upon, they're not going to be criticized for asking a question that's considered stupid or asked too often before. And I think that's one of the strengths of the forum.
Sure. Well, and one thing I think happens, under the the whole team aspect of the stewards and the moderators, is what I've noticed is the members are also very self-policing. If a new member comes in or somebody starts something that may not be appropriate, a lot of times the regular members will come in and say, in a respectful way, say, hey, you know what, we shouldn't be talking about this. Let's kind of just have some fun with it. So, that in itself, I'm sure helps you guys as well.
Oh, tremendously. And again, it reduces how much we have to do because, I don't want to make it sound like I spend hours a day. I mean, we're all doing this in our spare time, and,
Sure.
without pay, and because we love the site and want it to do well. And so, if it was overwhelming, I think it would be a case that you just couldn't get people to do it or to stay doing it.
Sure. Well, I would think that the vast majority, and maybe I'm just the optimistic type, but I think the vast majority of members appreciate everything that the team does, whether that be the stewards or whether that be the moderators. And I think that, the interaction that I've had with the moderators and so forth has always been very respectful. So it's an extension of the gentlemanly behavior that the site is known for to begin with. And with that being said, let's talk about you a little bit. What kind of what's your favorite shave setup, if you have one?
Well, I'll tell you what my favorite product of each is, and my favorite razor is, that one is easy. I ended up getting a Weber Bulldog with the ARC coating probably 6 years ago, and it was a $75 stainless steel razor, and unfortunately they went out of business, and you just can't buy it if you want to now.
Yeah, I've got the polished head version, and I won't part with it. I love it.
No, I love the razor. It shaves you just can't beat how comfortable and how close I get with it. And I have the Fat Handle Tech that's probably my second favorite, but it's, pretty easy what my favorite is. Out of a brush, I ended up getting an Eagle, Simpson Eagle in Best that was a limited edition Badger and Blade brush that got put out in 2010 right after I joined. And just is a fantastic brush. You can't get the Eagle in that size in Best hair, but it was custom made for Badger and Blade that year, and just a great all-around brush. My favorite soap, Art of Shaving Tallow, before they reformulated.
Sure.
And I stocked up. I probably had 10 pucks in the cupboard just in case, even though I rotate through probably 20 or 30 different soaps and creams. I don't want to run out of that one. Just love it. Blades, out of things that you could actually buy, Iridium, the favorites I have are some vintage Schicks and Wilkinson sword blades. And unfortunately got turned on to vintage blades a couple years ago and found a couple that I really liked. But again, those are hard to find. Now, the good news with those is I probably have 100 of each of those and probably get 10 to 20 shaves a piece with those blades, so shouldn't run out anytime soon. But I probably have another 1,000 blades besides those in there, so every time I tell myself I just can't buy anything else, I can't possibly use what I have, you turn around and it's like, well, that's a great deal. I just, or somebody raves about something and go, you know what, well, let me just try it. I mean, I'm sure you've been down that road.
Oh, thanks to you in a lot of ways when it comes to fragrances, yes.
And it does happen, and you go, I just can't do it again. I don't need anything, and then I'll see something and go, I just couldn't pass that up. And then fragrance, I've got a bunch of favorites, but
sure.
My all-time favorite is I ended up getting Creed Windsor back as a decant years ago, and it got taken off the market, and it was re-released as a fragrance called Royal Mayfair, and that's my favorite. Now, my wife's favorite is Domenico Carasini 1913, which also was around for a while. Then you couldn't find it at all for a while, and then got re-released last year, and it's made by some tailor in Italy, and is so obscure, but if it wasn't for Badger and Blade, I not only wouldn't have found it and tried it, I wouldn't have heard of it. But several other ones I like a lot. I like Patchouli Leaves by Montel. I like Penhaligon Sartorial, and There's just a whole group of them. But
Sure.
Well, Creed Aventus is a nice fragrance, but there's some really good ones out there.
Well, when you say Penhaligon, like most of the guys that know me over in our journal, they know that my eyes glaze over, because English Fern is probably one of my favorites, along with the Creed. And then the Dominica that you just mentioned is on my list, as well as Dior Leather Oud. Because Matt DeRuiter, who spends a lot of time over in the fragrance room, who's also a fantastic brush maker as well, he really turned me on, because I got a brush from him, and then he'd send me a few things. And Amouage is the one that I'm really kind of keying in on for this next year. With that being said, what has been your best shaving-related purchase or shaving-related score that you may have fallen into that you went, wow, I got a great deal, or I found something?
The best score I got was on, of all places, and I was never a big eBay guy, and I probably bought 3 or 4 things ever on eBay, but there was a time where I was flicking through, and there was a razor, and I remember it was a fat-handled tech, but from the pre-World War II ones, and I put in a bid for $3, and that was with shipping.
Oh,
and
wow.
forgot about it, and just it was just kind of a stupid bid. Just clicked on it. Nobody had bid anything yet, and just threw in something on there. And weeks went by, and I checked my email, and there was a notification that I had won the razor. And again, I didn't even do it as something I was expecting to get, and ended up getting a razor that probably, besides the Weber, is the one I use the most. And for $3, I just was stunned that I got it, and ended up buying both of my son's fat-handled techs, similar razors, and wish I could have got those for $3 as well. But I liked it enough to get each of them one, and that'd probably be the best score.
Yeah, when we talked about, doing this interview, I had thought about that. And for me, when because I did the normal progression, I was DE shaving for a while, then moved to electrics, then moved to cartridges, and then kind of forgot about it. And shaving became more of a chore. You had to do it every morning to look presentable.
Exactly.
And then I got tired. How it happened, like I'm sure it has with 90% of our members, I walked into Costco to get some blades, and, dropping $60 for a big pack of blades, and I went, wait a minute, there's got to be a better way to do this. Now, at that time, I had no idea that Badger and Blade existed, nor did I know that there were a lot of DE razors floating around. So I walked into a Walgreens, saw a Vanderhagen set, and said, wow, they still have these double-edged razors. And I bought one, and then I started searching. And the next thing I know, my wife walked in one day, and I think it was right around my birthday, and she goes, I got something to show you. Well, her father, who had passed away back in the 80s, had a box full of stuff, and she walks in, and there is a pristine 1961 Gillette Fat Boy that looks like it may have been used once, Gillette blue blades that were still in the package, 2 Shulton Old Spice bottles that were full, that were from Skaggs, which is a local vendor here, that were $1.99, and then a bottle of Brute 33 that was still original from back in that day. And I looked at it, and literally she said that I looked like I had just met George Clooney or something. I mean, that my eyes were just glazed over. And and also a puck of brand new Old Spice shaving soap.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And it was,
that's a score.
yeah, and it was amazing. And as a matter of fact, a couple of days ago, I was thinking about that, so I kind of used all of his stuff. But that's probably the one that really means the most to me, because every time I use it, even though I never got to meet her father, it's kind of a tribute to him.
Right, it has meaning.
Exactly, and now unfortunately I don't use it as much as often, because I got pushed down the straight razor rabbit hole, and I'm still a couple of thousand feet below ground there. But you and I have.
One of the beauties of it is just knowing that when you pick up something and knowing, that it's been around for 80 years or 50 years, and who all has used it before you. There's something I don't know, romantic about that or satisfying about it. I think it contributes a lot to the experience and why a lot of us enjoy it.
Well, I agree with you, and I think especially what I've seen in the straight razors, because I've got a few that that are from the late 1800s, early 1900s, and what you said is spot on. Who did this razor shave? Whose hand was it in over the last 160 years, 170 years? And it makes the whole experience just that much more fun. Now, you say this in open company to your friends, and they look at you like you got bit by a rabid bat. But it's what makes this, I think, such a wonderful hobby for us to have. And, you and I have known each other a little while, and, we've talked a little bit already about your affinity for fragrances, your favorites, your dislikes. But what originally led you to the fragrance side of things? I mean, as far as having a nice cologne or eau de parfum or something like that, what led you that way?
You know what? I mean, I remember all the way back into probably college when I first started dating seriously and realizing that if I smelled okay, I did better. And I hate to say that, but I mean, men are pretty simple creatures.
Yes.
And it worked for me. And then I started seeing, well, there's a lot more options than just what was at the store.
Mm-hmm.
And began to appreciate the differences of it and did some reading on it. And I remember I had read some books about the different types of fragrance. And before that, I couldn't have told you between a fougere and, an oriental,
mm-hmm.
and it would have meant nothing, or knowing what notes or what components, what the base notes were, and it was meaningless. And then the more I got to appreciate it and tell the difference and tell how something evolved, it just became more and more fascinating to me about how complex these things were. At the beginning it smelled good, and
mm-hmm.
then later it smelled interesting. And I guess that's the difference of how it evolved over time is and the other difference is, when I started, I picked things that I thought other people would smell.
Sure.
And thought I smelled good. Now I pick things that I think I like how I smell.
Well, it's funny you mention that, because right when you said that, I was thinking, okay, everybody goes through that. And so there was the Jovan Musk days. There was the Brut 33 days. And then, of course, you got, if you really wanted to get crazy, you had Drakkar Noir, which unfortunately now I smell it and I can't take it anymore. But I remember Jovan Musk. It was like, that was the magic elixir. And then there was Polo Green. That was the first big expensive one that you have. And of course when I had it, you bathed in it. And it's just funny to hear you say that, because that just sparked all those memories right out of the gate.
And Jovan Musk, I guarantee you that was the first one that I started with. I still have a bottle in the cupboard. I don't wear it very often, but there's something nostalgic about
Sure.
it that, and some of the, drugstore scents that I still like I like Jovan Musk.
Mm-hmm.
I like Clubman. I may not wear them every day, but I still, there's certain things that fragrances bring back memories.
Mm-hmm.
Memories are very powerful.
Sure.
And there's something to be said about smelling something and remembering a person or a place or a time.
Sure.
And scent's very powerful that way.
Well, and it's funny, because I remember one time my mom, every birthday or everything like that, my mom loved, I don't know if you remember, back in the 70s, there was a fragrance for women called Charlie. And every year I would buy her a Charlie. And then one day my dad was able to find one of the display models. It was like a 32 gallon. It was huge. And she bought that. And it's funny, to this day, I don't even know if anybody, but if I get a hint of that smell, I think of my mom and my dad. The two main ones that he wore, or three, was Bill Blas, the Lagerfeld, and Brut was the big one, Brut 33, and Royal Bay Rum. And I find myself, when I look in my closet, so to speak, is that those fragrances are there. And I think that olfactory sense that you get with fragrances, to do what you said, reminds you of days gone past or people that you knew. And the ironic thing is I remember the first time I went and bought my wife a nice perfume, and the whole way out of the department store, I'm complaining about how much it cost. Then, of course, I go and then I go and I tell my wife, hey, look, here's Creed Silver Mountain Water, or here's Creed Aventus. And then she'd look at the price and say, I don't want to hear you say anything ever again.
Yeah, don't say a word. Don't say a word.
But, and it's funny that, that those fragrances can take you down. And to me, the whole wet shaving and badgerandblade.com is really, it's almost, and this is going to sound weird, but it's almost a compendium of memories. Because if you look throughout all the threads, and I do this as I prepare for the shows every other week, you see stories from people from all different walks of life, from all different, socioeconomic backgrounds, from all different ages. But if you bust all that down to the core, 9 times out of 10, it's a memory, and it's a good memory that kind of brought us back to this hobby, which I think is just fascinating.
Oh, I mean, it is, and the site's unique. It really is. I know you had asked earlier about how I got involved in, and I remember that I lurked for a long time, and I've seen some of the numbers at Badger and Blade, and there's still more lurkers out there than members, I would bet. I would bet at any given time that we're outnumbered by people who come and see the site and don't join it, and I was one of those for quite a while, and I remember the motivation for me to finally join the site was the BST thread, and I remember I just decided, well, you know what, I want to try some of these vintage razors, and I had a razor that wasn't a good razor. I mean, my first setup was bad setup. I got a soap that was terrible, and a brush that wasn't great, and a Parker razor that I liked how it looked, and in fact, I didn't even have no other reason besides how it looked for why I bought it. And then I found Badger and Blade and started reading people who actually knew what they were talking about.
Sure.
And would hear about these vintage razors, and at first it's kind of overwhelming because there's so many different things to choose from, and trying to keep track of a rocket and a super speed and a tech, and then on BST at the time somebody had put a lot of razors up for sale. And I remember I paid all of $40 for 4 razors back at the time.
Oh, wow.
A slim and a super speed and a tech and a gem razor, and they were all in great shape.
Sure.
And things were cheap then. I mean, especially some of the vintage razors still weren't that in vogue like they are now.
Sure.
Now the prices have gone up quite a bit.
Oh,
although there's so many more options now.
Oh, well, and that's what I was just going to
amazing.
say. Yeah, I mean, right when you look back at the vintage razors and say, okay, I've got a Fat Boy, I've got a Tech, I've got an old, I've got a new, and then all of a sudden you turn the page and it's like, oh, wow, here's a new single-edge razor, here's a new double-edge razor, here's a new, and it's all stainless steel, and it'll last for 15 million years. And then you start going, oh, well, I have to have that. I need that. I have to go get this one. And the next thing you knew, like in my case, is I got booted out of our master bathroom, and now I take up my residence in our guest bathroom. Yeah,
I mean, there's so many options. I mean, I just in the 7.5 years I've been here, it is looking through. With soaps, when I started, you had your choice of Tabac and Mitchell's Wool Fat and Art of Shaving and a few other ones, maybe Arco and Palmolive. Now there's hundreds.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, you name the scent, you could get it. You name if you want to find 10 vegan soaps that are Bay Rum vegan soaps, you could find 10 different ones out there. And the quality of them tends to be fantastic. It's not the poor quality stuff. I mean, if you make a poor quality product right now, there's so many other ones that are good that you can't survive.
Exactly. And you had mentioned something earlier, excuse me, about the number of lurkers and the number of actual members. And actually, in the last show, I spent a week kind of monitoring that at different times during the day. And what you said is very true. We average anywhere between 200 and 500 members online at any one time, but we'll end up with 1,000 to 1,200 guests online at any one time. And I think that a lot of it could be, people, by virtue of the experiences they've had on other forums, or they don't want to ask, like you said, men are simple creatures, but we've also got egos the size of Mount Rushmore. And the last thing we want to do, unfortunately, is ask that one question that everybody goes, okay, here's the village idiot. But what I think, and the reason why people don't join right away, at least that's my thought process, is that they're afraid they're going to get flamed or they're going to get attacked. And what I try to say through this medium is that, no, join. There's no such thing as a stupid question, because each one of us have been right in the same spot where you're at right now.
And what's interesting, and I think unique with Badger and Blade, and it was the first forum of any kind I joined, and I've since joined several others, but keep coming back to B&B, and that's where I spend 95% of the time I spend online with any kind of forum.
Sure.
And what's unique about it is, just like you said, they're just people who do join. It's amazing. You watch somebody who joined 2 months ago, they're eager to jump in and give help to the next guy. It's the next man up philosophy, and it's like you said, there are no stupid questions. There's just people are eager to help and want to help, and it's kind of the unique thing about it is just how gentlemanly and how friendly the people are.
Exactly. Well, Mike, I want to move on to a subject that I know is very dear into your heart. With your vocation, I know that March, and obviously with the related Check 6 threads that we've had regarding Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month, is very important to you. Can you expand on that and tell the members how they can get involved in bringing attention to this very important health issue, both for men and women, including dispelling some of the horror stories and new advancements that are available in colonoscopies or colon health?
Well, I'll let you know how I got involved in the Check 6 program. Several years ago, they had asked, because they knew that I work as a physician, that I would be a good person to maybe get this out there and talk about colorectal cancer. And, I'll say is that when I went to Ohio State, and the first day of medical school when we were at Ohio State, the very first thing they did is they put us all in a big lecture hall, and they had Woody Hayes come in and talk to us.
Wow.
And Woody Hayes was the king at Ohio State. I mean, back then he had just retired from coaching several years earlier, and just he was a beloved guy. And he gave the best talk that I still to this day ever heard. And he talked about something that if you've spent any time at Badger and Blade, you understand. And it was about paying it forward. And he had a paid forward speech that he gave, and he talked about how we could never even dream of paying back our parents and teachers for all they did for us. And it was our obligation moving forward to pay forward, to give to the people who came after us. And so when I was asked about doing this, I jumped at the chance. And I've said before, out of all the things I've done at Badger and Blade, this I consider a privilege and an honor to be able to do. And it's to talk about something that saves lives, prevents terrible things that happen to people. And that's about colorectal cancer screening. And every March is Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month. And in fact, March 3rd, I'll tell anybody who's interested, that's the day you wear blue for colorectal cancer awareness. And the entire March, we try to encourage people to get screened and to get checked for colon cancer. The reason it's so important is that it's maybe the only cancer that is largely preventable. Most everything else our goal is to find it early and hopefully it hasn't spread yet, to treat it before it's gotten out and limit the damage it does. But colon cancer is somewhat unique in that most colon cancer starts out as polyps. And not every polyp is cancerous, but almost every cancer starts as a polyp. And if you find the polyps during screening and remove them, there's nothing there to turn into cancer. And so we can take a lot of people by screening and prevent them from ever having to go through the pain of dealing with cancer. And even the ones that we can't prevent, if we find it early enough, we can cure that cancer. So there's so much into getting it done. And the current recommendation for most people, and there are exceptions, but for most people is you start at the age of 50. Or if there's colon cancer in your family, first-degree relative, you take whatever age they had cancer, take 10 years off of that, and you start screening at that age. So if your mother had cancer at 52, at 42 you start screening. And the gold standard for screening is to get a colonoscopy every 10 years. But there are other tests that could be done. If you don't want to get that done, there's stool testing for called blood. There's some newer stool testing for DNA markers that turn up in cancer. There's a type of CAT scan that could be done. But any of those are better than not getting it done. And it's amazing how often I talk to people about getting it done, and I get excuses why they just don't want to do it, or they'll do it next year, or some reason that they just don't want to have it done. And a lot of times it's fear of going through the procedure and the idea that, it's going to be some terrible thing. And I tell everyone, ask somebody who's done it and ask them how bad it was. And I've done it. I mean, I'm past 50, and
sure.
And so I've had it done. And I've had root canals, and the root canals were way worse than getting a colonoscopy. I mean, other than a 1 day of clear liquid that you have to go through, and most of us can afford to go 1 day without, eating for a day. And, the prep, which is much easier now than it used to be, but you do a prep that cleans you out. And, the procedure itself is kind of anticlimactic. You show up, they put an IV in you, they tell you you're going to get drowsy, and 15 minutes later you wake up and it's over.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, the first one I had, I was kind of stunned because, it was like, that's it. I went in and my scheduled time was at 8, and at 8:30 I was in the car driving home.
Mm-hmm.
And just went, wow, that was nothing.
Well,
and that's what's important to know. It really isn't bad.
Well, and it's funny to expand on that, and really the Check 6, the whole Check 6 form. Now, me being former Air Force, I hear Check 6, and of course I think,
you know what it means.
Exactly. So I that's how I ended up on the thread, is I really thought, oh, hey, this is a bunch of old Air Force crew dogs that are talking about, something that happened. And then I read more and more about it, and I had just, reached my 50th birthday, and I started thinking about it. Now, fortunately, I have no cancer in our family, but I started talking to my friends about it, and of course I got the same reaction that you just mentioned. You don't need to do that. Are you crazy? You don't want that thing going where it's going, and you wouldn't believe you have to drink gallons of this goop, and you're going to have to be, in the restroom constantly. So, of course, that's all building in my head, and I'm thinking, okay, maybe I'm being an idiot here. But then I read the thread, and I listened to what you had said, and Bob was a real big proponent, to me, and so I did it, and I found this new form of prep called Propopic. In fact, I've got the Propopic cup right in front of me right now, and it was 2 treatments. One at 6 in the evening, one at 10 at night. Got my iPad, and I ended up at the throne and went to bed at midnight, got up, boom, 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 got done. And I'll tell you, even though it wasn't a lot of sleep, I felt more rested after that section. And the physician that I had was fantastic. And the bonus is that I got to go out and eat all-you-can-eat Chinese buffet afterwards because my wife took me. So, to me, it almost was like you built it up so bad that when you're done, you're like, well, that was why was I scared? That was stupid. It's easy.
It really was, there was nothing to it when you get done. And I mean, it really is that simple. And and we try to help people. I always ask everyone, tell their stories. Come on the site, and if you've had it done, tell us about it. Because telling us about it, it helps the people who read about it, who are in that position where they're wondering, do I want to do this or not? And when they hear people they know and trust say, there's nothing to it.
Exactly.
Get it done.
Exactly.
It makes it so much easier to just pick up the phone or when you are at your physician's office to say, you know what, I thought about it. Let me get it done.
Well, and the good news is, like, in my case, and I'm sure with a good majority of the other people, is when the physician comes out and you've woken up and you're all ready, and he comes and he looks at you and says, okay, I don't have to see you for another 10 years. That literally took, because I have a tendency, I'm OCD to begin with, and I have a tendency to dwell on things. And so going into the doctor, I was worried. Are they going to find polyps? What does that really mean? But when it was over with, he says, you're fine. Everything's perfect. We'll see you in 10 years. It was like, wow. I mean, literally, it was like a 50-pound weight just got taken off of me, and I can say, okay, I did the right thing. And that's really the part that I hope we can convey in this interview, is it's the right thing to do more than anything else.
I've said this before, is if we could get one person to go, and it saves one life doing this, it was worth however much time it took. And I honestly believe that we help way more than one person. And I just, again, find it to be very rewarding. And speaking of rewarding, we've had a couple of vendors who've been incredibly generous this year in helping with the Check 6 program, and offered prizes or rewards or gifts to people who are going to post on the thread about having gone and gotten scheduled to get screened, and to people who have talked about their prior experiences. And Sue from Mama Bear and Aviv from West Coast Shaving have both been incredibly generous, and not the first time they have with Badger and Blade, if you've spent any time on the site.
Sure.
But when I'm saying incredibly generous. And so we're going to be able to do some really nice things to people who post on the thread.
Now, Mike, you said you said that the thread is open now, correct?
Yes, it started today. It started February 28th, and it will run through the month of March, and then the prizes will be awarded in April.
Fantastic. Well, I think, hopefully the Badger and Blade members that are listening to the show today, we'd like to really, ask you to join the thread. Even if you haven't had it done yet, at least find out about it. And if you had the procedure done, share your story, because this will help, as Mike said, one person, then it's all worth it. And Mike, with your permission, I'd like to go ahead and send out a challenge to the Badger and Blade members as well. Since this show will be airing on March 6th, however, hopefully in or around that time, I'd like to challenge the members to change their avatars to either a Colorectal Cancer Awareness logo or a picture, or a Check 6 picture, and maybe even put something in your signature line that says that Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month is this month. Whether you do it or not, that show of solidarity, really makes a difference for that one guy that may be sitting on the fence, that may be a little scared, or that may say, well, maybe it's not that important. These stories are so important to people that are on the fence like that. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely, and I do appreciate that, Dave, because like you said, every single person that we help and make it more likely for them to do this, again, you save a life here and a life there, and it makes a difference. And that it's amazing with Badger and Blade how many things they do well besides just shaving and making a difference in the life of the members. And I mean, there's so much that they tend to add, and this is as big a one as there is.
Well, Mike, I know that on behalf of, and I'll maybe stick my neck out, but on behalf of the B&B admin and moderator team, as well as all the Badger and Blade members that have been around through the Check 6 programs over the last couple of years, I want to sincerely thank you for bringing this to people's attention, because as I said, if it wouldn't have been for you and for the guys on Badger and Blade that shared their stories, more than likely it would have been out of sight, out of mind, and I would have waited until my doctor said, hey, you're 57 years old, maybe it's time to do this. And so I appreciate that. And then finally, Mike, is there anything you'd like to say to the members of Badger and Blade in regard to either this subject or just in general?
Well, I mean, the one thing I'd say is to anybody who hasn't joined, join. I mean, there's so much that you can get out of it. I honestly do think it's the best site on the web. I'm a little biased, but I've gotten way more from it than it's given to me, and that's all you could ask of anything. And again, it truly is a privilege and an honor to do this kind of stuff.
Well, I know, Mike, that on behalf of myself, for those, that spend the time on our radio show and take the time out of their evening away from their families to do these interviews, it's very, very much appreciated, because I think what it also does is it also brings the members closer together, because now we're talking about subjects and things that, you can see it and type, but when you hear two guys talking about it, they get to know people a little bit better, in my opinion. And so I would really, really sincerely like to thank you for taking part in this Moderator Spotlight. I think that it's going to really bring light to not only the Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month, but also, it gives a little bit of an insight on the fact that we're a lot more alike in the path that we've taken through Badger and Blade than we are apart.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you again for shining the light on the issue. And I really do appreciate you taking the time with me here.
No problem, Mike. You have a wonderful day, and thanks once again for being a part of Badger and Blade.
All right, you have a good one too, Dave. Bye-bye.
This brings another episode of Badger and Blade Radio to a close, and we'd once again like to thank Mike for spending some extended time with us during his Moderator Spotlight interview, as well as bringing enhanced awareness to colorectal cancer and colorectal cancer screenings. For those gentlemen that have been posting in the Check 6 thread, we want to sincerely thank you for sharing your health stories. It's not always easy to do. And for those that are not in the risk factor based on age or family history, please check out the Check 6 thread. Learn a little bit about the experiences that people have gone through, because if we can save one life, then this campaign was certainly worth it. Also, a couple of members have been asking if we ever make mistakes here on B&B Radio. Oh, if you only knew. So over the next couple of months, we're going to be compiling some of our funnier bloopers while we're recording this show, and we'll have that on a segment on a later episode. As always, we'd like to thank the stewards for all the hard work they do each and every day in each of the forums to build content and keep the members engaged. We'd also like to thank the moderators and admins for all the hard work they do each and every day, especially now as the XF software migration is taking place. And most importantly, we'd like to thank you, the members of BadgerandBlade.com. You are the lifeblood of this forum, and we certainly do appreciate your membership each and every day. On the March 20th show, we have a very special Steward Spotlight interview that we think that you will enjoy, so please stay tuned for that. I've been your host, Dave Skyside, and thank you for listening to Badger and Blade Radio. Join us for our next episode.